So, I just got to see one of the more interesting movies of the year, mainly because of its title. The movie's called Blink Twice, and you might be thinking, why is that title so interesting? Well, it's not. It's actually extremely generic, maybe the most generic title of the year. But what's interesting about this film is what the original title of it was before they made them switch the name. It was called Pussy Island. I wonder why they changed that. What a great title! It would have done so much better at the box office, but instead they get Blink Twice. Very generic. Blink Twice was directed by Zoe Kravitz. If you don't know who Zoe Kravitz is, she is the girl that plays Catwoman in The Batman. She's also a great actress who has done other stuff as well, but that's the main thing people know her from. It stars Naomi Ackie and, of course, Channing Tatum, who plays this charismatic billionaire who invites Naomi Akkie's character and her friend to this island. This private island where they end up staying for a set period of time, and as in all movies like this, weird stuff starts to happen. And this is a fascinating movie for a multitude of different reasons, because at its core, what this film is, if I were to lay out the plot to you, the entire thing from beginning to end, you would look at it and say, that sounds like 5,000 movies I see a year. But the presentation of this movie is so odd. It's so hard to explain, because on one hand, the first half of this movie is such a weirdly conjointed mess of tones and editing that it's just almost unbearable to watch. But then the second half is so fun in an outwardly violent way, and also a comedic way, that it almost becomes a completely different movie, and one that I absolutely loved, despite the fact that it's still not very different. So you really get the tale of two movies here. One movie that is as bland as its title, one movie that is, Blink Twice, and then another movie which is Pussy Island. Some good things I will say about this movie. I think Naomi Ackie as the lead here is really, really good. She's definitely playing a very different kind of character than you're used to in a film like this. She's not playing the typical final girl. It's a very different sort of character, and I enjoyed what she had to offer in this film, although the character journey she goes on, yet again, a little bit predictable. Channing Tatum, he's in this movie. I guess your true love for this movie is going to depend on if you actually buy Channing Tatum's performance here. I kind of compare it in a weird way to Nick Cage in Longlegs, where if that performance in that movie worked for you, you're going to love the film. If it didn't work for you, you're not really going to love that film. And this performance is just as ridiculous, particularly when you get to the third act, and there are some things that Channing Tatum does that just kind of made me laugh. And I guess it was supposed to. It reminded me of the scene with Nick Cage in the car in Longlegs, where you also laugh at that scene. Not sure if you were supposed to, but here I think you were. But his performance is fine. It's entertaining. Anytime he's on screen, you're paying attention. I think the plot of this island and the obvious twists and turns you go through of finding out what's actually going on are creative enough. It's a new little twist on a very sort of done-to-death concept, and I kind of like the ideas here and what it leads to with its overall themes, the things that it's trying to say to us, the public, the viewers. Because with its concept, you really kind of get this girl power film, especially in that third act, what ends up being so much fun, especially compared to the first act, which tried to be such a more serious thriller. It's such a weird tone difference here. The beginning of the movie is very conjolted. The editing is all over the place. It is meant to confuse you. At first, I thought it was just bad. I said, this editing is horrible, the pace is crazy, and I am confused. I don't know where we are or why we're here. And it turns out that's kind of the point. That's what they clearly wanted you to feel in that first act. And the film does do a good job of not losing you, because right when you're at the point in the film where it's about to lose you, where it's been going on for way too long, where you just don't know what's happening, right at that point, it does its little twist, and it kind of clues you in enough to hook you back in. So I'll give the film credit there, but that first half does spend a lot of time just being convoluted and conjolted and just all over the place with its tone, that by the time you do get to the third act, and it is so much fun and so crazy, and like I said, this weird girl power team up that you get, and this violence and all this stuff that you get, I don't know if the third act works as well because of what you had to sit through in the first act. I also thought the ending of this movie was not satisfying. It's supposed to be satisfying. It's supposed to be like, boom! That is the biggest, most satisfying moment we could think of. But instead, it just kind of left me scratching my head. Like, what? This movie felt like a weird crossover between Glass Onion and a lot of the things that make that movie work, and Saltburn, mainly the stuff that make that movie not work. And you put those two films together and you get Blink Twice. You don't get Pussy Island. God, they should have kept that title. It's the greatest title in the history of cinema. From a direction point of view, I like to see these actors going in and sitting in the director's chair. We've seen a lot of it recently. We've seen Anna Kendrick, who has a new movie coming out. She apparently made this amazing movie as a first-time director. Obviously, Jesse Eisenberg has been making movies, and you also had Chris Pine make that movie about a pool guy. Heard it wasn't good, didn't see it. But this is the first effort I've seen from Zoe Kravitz, and yeah, she's a very confident director, and I have no complaints on the direction. There was no moment in the film where I said a better director could have made this script work even more. I don't know. I thought she did fine. I think the film is shot really well. The camera does some interesting things throughout. I think the actors all, kind of gave decent performances here. There wasn't any terrible performance in the movie. Unless you really don't like what Channing Tatum does here. No complaints from a direction point of view. I just think that first half of the movie, although it is the intention to kind of confuse you and bore you, I thought it was such a weird tone difference from the much better second half of the movie that I didn't particularly buy into the whole thing as a package. I would never rewatch this movie. I think what I would do instead is search up the 3 or 4 parts of the movie that I really enjoyed on YouTube and watch them back, because outside of that, I don't have much else to say. But I did like a lot of what this movie was trying to say. Of course, it's really kind of dark in its themes. I do want to say that in case you're sensitive to some stuff. It's extremely dark and extremely open about these things that could be happening to women in places like this, and just the horrible things that could be happening around the world. And it's very honest about it, and I appreciate that, because it's a conversation that I think should be had in this medium. That's what art is for. It's what movies are for. So we can have these tough conversations and talk about the world in a much more metaphoric, cinematic way. And this film does do a very good job of that. The script does. But yet again, at the end of the day, this movie still feels a little too generic. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought this one was going to be really terrible, and it wasn't. It ended up being an enjoyable watch. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's very entertaining. And in a world with a bunch of movies like this, where we're going to this weird place with this charismatic billionaire or this charismatic dude, and things are normal at first, but there's something a little bit off, and then you realize, oh, there's something really off, and here's the big M. Night Shyamalan twist, and boom, bada boom, bada boom. You have a crazy movie. We just had that one with Harry Styles and Florence, what the fuck was it called? Don't Worry, Darling, which came out 2 years ago. Where is time going? Holy crap. It's very similar to that movie, in a movie that I'm just not going to complain much about, because it's not terrible, there's really nothing bad about it, but it might just end up being a little bit forgettable that a couple years from now, when I see another movie like this, I might have to go search up the title of this movie and say, hey, it was called Blink Twice and not Pussy Island, and it came out 2 years ago, and it's 2026, and yeah. But I will give Blink Twice a solid 3 out of 5. It was a good movie. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of Blink Twice down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one.